Hi everyone and welcome back to Orange Shots. Sea life is a dangerous life. It's every day that you have to face different kind of challenges. But if you ask the people who are serving at sea, they would hardly swap this life with any other life. The sea life by all means is very fascinating, but sometimes the mistake of some people can lead to a disaster. Such was the case with Costa Concordia. Costa Concordia was partially owned by Carnival Lines, that is in USA. She was a 2006 built vessel. And on the night of January 13th, 2012, this vessel collided with the rocks at Scola Picola near a small island of Italy that is called as Giglio. And after just 6 years in service, the vessel partially sank with a heavy starboard list close to this island. The most interesting part in this whole story is not the grounding of the ship or the sinking of the ship. The most interesting part is the behavior of the Captain Francesco Scattini. Due to his actions, almost 32 people lost their lives, 60 people were hospitalized, and the company had to bear not just the loss of $617 million vessel, but they lost quite a lot of money later on in the coming days in form of business. Costa Concordia was built in the year 2006 with an estimated cost of $617 million. Costa Concordia came into service on 30th of June 2006. She was the largest vessel of the Costa fleet. Her length was about 290 meters and her beam was about 35.2 meters. She had 13 public decks, a top speed of 23 knots, that's around 42 kilometers per hour. She had a 2-story spa, 4 swimming pools, 1 outdoor swimming pool, with a movie screen, 1,502 guest cabins and 601 crew cabin. The vessel had a capacity of holding 4,890 people on board. The command of the vessel was with Captain Francesco Scattino, who was at the helms of the affairs of this vessel. She departed on 11th of January 2012 from the port of Cagliari on a 7-day Mediterranean cruise. The vessel arrived at the port of Civitavecchia, Italy on 13th of January 2012. And just before sunset, she sets her sail to Savona, Italy on her next leg. The original passage of Costa Concordia was passing between the mainland of Italy and the small island of Giglio. Now, the cruise lines do one more thing. It's not always done, but sometimes they do it, and that is called as sail by salute. The purpose of sail by salute is, first, to give all the passengers on board a unique view of the island, and at the same time, it is done to pay a homage to seafaring community on that island. To perform this sail by salute, the final passage was altered, and it was decided to keep the vessel at least 1.5 nautical miles eastward of the island. That was the safe estimated distance. As per testimonies of Captain Francesco Scattino, the Costa manager asked them to perform this sail by salute. At 9:40 p.m., the captain returns to the bridge. A crew member who also belonged to the island of Giglio was called up on the bridge. He was a cook. And then there is a Moldovan dancer who is also invited on the bridge, and she is a non-paying guest. Her name is Ms. Damnica Limortan, and she later confessed that she was a non-paying guest on the vessel and she was in romantic relationship with the captain. However, Captain Scattino denied later in the court that her presence on the bridge caused any sort of impact on this incident. Later on in the court, Captain Scattino admitted that he was not using radar or ACDIS for this maneuver. He was maneuvering the vessel by sight, that is, by looking at the island, and he said that when he saw the waves breaking at the shoals, at the rocks, he gave the order of alteration of course to the starboard. The chief officer on the bridge, who was on duty at that time, also gave a statement to the court that Captain Scattino had left his glasses in the cabin, and when he came on the bridge, he had no glasses. And he was asking the chief officer again and again to tell him what he could see on the radar. In short, a small confusion happened. Captain Scattino gave an order. The helmsman did not execute that order in time, and that took the vessel around 659 meters close to the coast than what it should have been. This increased the turning circle of the vessel, and the vessel hit Scola Picola Shoals on her port side. That caused a gash of around 70 meters in the hull. The vessel hit lee Scole rocks of Scola Picola Shoal at around 9:45 p.m. As soon as the water started coming in the engine rooms, the engine room was flooded, generators were flooded, electrical panel was flooded. The vessel completely lost the engine power and the electrical power. The duty chief engineer at that time called the bridge and told the bridge that about 3 compartments were breached. The water was coming in and it was reaching the electrical panels. When the vessel hit the shoal, propulsion was lost, generators were lost, the power was lost, and this caused a panic situation in the dining rooms. But at 9:51, on the PA system of the vessel, it was announced that everything was under control and it was just a simple blackout, and technicians were working to resolve the issue.
In a blackout, we've experienced electrical failure. At this point, the situation is under control, and our
Secondo i parole di Cotta erano in train di
resolve
arrivare.
the situation. We'll give you further information. We're currently in a blackout. Our technicians are working to resolve the situation.
The Costa crisis manager was informed by Captain Scattino of the prevailing conditions and circumstances on board the vessel. At around 22:12, that is 12 minutes past 10 o'clock, the port controls calls Costa Concordia and asks her about her situation. And the Costa Concordia tells the port control that everything was under control, it was a simple blackout, and that technicians were working on it to fix it. Without the power and propulsion, the vessel drifts northwards. But soon, the waves, the swell, and the sea starts taking her back again. The only good thing that Captain Scattino did in all of this scenario is that he let the vessel drift. At around 10:30 p.m., the vessel changed her heading towards the southwards heading, and she started drifting again towards the shoal of Scola Picola. Knowing the condition that the vessel was facing and knowing that the water has now started coming in compartment number 4, 5, 6 and 7 as well, and the vessel has already started listing to starboard, Captain Scattino decides to let the vessel drift. Shortly before making this decision to let the vessel drift to the rocks, at around 26 minutes past 10 p.m., Captain Scattino calls Livorno port and he asks for assistance of a tug. And he tells them that there is one opening underwater that has opened and the water is coming in. He did not mention that the vessel has hit the shore and that there is a 70 meters long gash on the port side of the hull. As the vessel was drifting and taking in a lot of water, the pumps also failed. This meant that now more water was coming inside. The vessel started listing towards starboard side heavily. And a duty officer informs Captain Scattino that the passengers are now making way to deck number 4 to board the lifeboats. Captain Scattino by this time did not make a decision. He did not inform the port authorities, and the passengers were not informed of the real situation. At around 10:42 p.m., the port authorities were finally alerted. They were informed of the real situation. At around 10:50 p.m., the captain finally decides to abandon ship. The boat alarm was sounded and passengers were informed of the abandoned ship. The ship at this point had already listed to about 20 degrees to the starboard side. There were around 4,229 people on board at this time. At around 11 p.m., when the boats were boarding, the vessel had already listed to about 25 degrees to the starboard side. And the worst part of all of this incident is that around 11:30 p.m., everybody had left the bridge. There was nobody on the bridge. Not a single person, not even the captain. There was no one to respond to the people who were coming for the rescue. And by 11:30 p.m., the vessel had listed so heavily to the starboard side that it was completely impossible to launch any boats from the port side. The lifeboats, however, kept on launching. As the water kept coming in, the list kept on accelerating. And the vessel finally rested to about an 80-degree of angle on her starboard side on the shoals. The starboard side of the ship was completely submerged in the water. The people of the island of the Giglio welcomed everyone in their homes. Most of the people were able to make it to the lifeboats, but there were around 80 people who were still stuck on the ship. The rescue operation was already in progress. Coast Guard, Italian Navy and Italian Air Force, everybody was participating to rescue all the people from this sunken boat. And the worst part of all of this story is that most of the officers of the ship, including Captain Scattino, had already left.
By the Coast Guard.
In this video recorded by the captain of the Coast Guard, you can see that he is demanding return of Captain Scattino on Costa Concordia. He never did.
Buonasera, comandante. Senta, io sono De Falco da Livorno, parlo col comandante? Sì, buonasera, comandante Falco. Mi dica il suo nome, per favore. Il comandante Scattino, comandante. Scattino? Sì. Ascolti, Scattino. Ci sono persone intrappolate a bordo, adesso lei va con la sua scialuppa. Sotto la prua della nave, lato dritto, c'è una biscaggina. Lei sale su quella biscaggina e va a bordo della nave. Va a bordo della nave e mi viene a dire, mi riporta quante persone ci sono. È chiaro? Io sto registrando questa comunicazione, comandante Scattino. Allora, comandante, le dico una cosa. Parli a voce alta. Allora, la nave adesso, io sono qua di fronte... Comandante, parli a voce... In questo momento, la nave è inclinata... Ho capito. C'è gente, ascolti, c'è gente che sta scendendo dalla biscaggina di prua. Lei quella biscaggina la percorre in senso inverso, sale sulla nave e mi dice quante persone e che cosa hanno a bordo, chiaro? Mi dice se ci sono bambini, donne o persone bisognose di assistenza e me ne dice il numero di ciascuna di queste categorie, è chiaro? Guardi Scattino che lei si è salvato forse dal mare, ma io la porto veramente molto male, faccio passare l'anima dei guai. Vado a bordo, cazzo! Comandante, per cortesia. Che sta facendo, comandante? Sto qua per coordinare i soccorsi. Che sta coordinando lì? Vado a bordo, mi coordini grado di andare a bordo, comandante? E mi dica qual è il motivo per cui non ci va. Sto andando perché ci sta l'altra lancia che si è fermata. Lei vada a bordo, è un ordine. Però ma si rende conto che è buio e che qua non vediamo nulla. E che vuole tornare a casa, Scattino? È buio, vuole tornare a casa? Salga sulla prua della nave tramite la biscaccina e mi dica ora.
And you can also see that there is a soft ladder on the port side of the ship, and all of the passengers that were still stuck on the ship were evacuated using this ladder and the Coast Guard boats. Around 4:46 a.m. of the morning, the rescue was completed and concluded. Around 35 people were still unaccounted for. 3 of them were saved the next day. 2 of them, a Korean couple, they were locked in the cabin and they could not open the door. They were rescued the next day. There was 1 person with a broken leg. He was also rescued the next day. But 32 people were still unaccounted for, and their bodies were found later in the wreck of the ship. Most of the bodies were trapped in the elevators. Out of these 32 people, 27 were passengers and 5 were the crew members. And the final missing body was finally found on 3rd of November 2014, almost 3 years after this incident. Later on in the court, the captain claimed that he was actually conducting the rescue operation when he stumbled upon and slipped into the lifeboat. That is so absurd and completely unbelievable. After the trial, ship's 4 officers were given a jail sentence of under 2 years. The Costa Concordia crisis manager, with whom Captain Scattino was in touch during all of this ordeal, was handed over a jail sentence of 2 years and 10 months. Captain Scattino later on accepted that his actions had caused the wreck. However, he did not accept that his actions caused the death of 32 people, because as per him, the people died due to the sinking of the vessel and not by the accident. Captain Scattino was charged with manslaughter, causing the shipwreck, and abandoning the passengers, and he was handed a jail sentence of 16 years in prison. The ship, however, was declared a total constructive loss, or TCL, and it cost around $1 billion to manage that shipwreck. The survivors of the accident were offered a deal of about $13,000 per person. Some of them took it, some of them not. We really do not know. The people who lost their lives in all of this accident were offered separate deals, but we have no details of them. We don't know how much was offered to them. But the bottom line is that around 32 people lost their lives unnecessarily, completely unnecessarily. Well, that was pretty much today's video. If you enjoyed this video in any way, if you learned something new about our lives or generally the lives at sea, then please do consider sharing this video, liking this video, and subscribing to my channel. With tons of love to my YouTube family and to be YouTube family, this is me, Zahid Nisar. You are watching Captain Zahid. Until the next video, bye.